Welcome to Hey Listen, where we discuss faith, leadership, and the mission of the church. We're so glad you've joined us. Now to today's episode. All right, we are ready for another episode, and I am super excited to have another guest on the podcast with us. Today we have Dailey, and she's going to share a little bit about her heart for mission. So introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us what grade you're in. You just recently got back from a mission trip, so tell us where you went and just a little bit about that experience, and we'll jump in.
Okay, I'm Dailey. I am in 9th grade, and we went to Lesotho, Africa, and it was just an amazing trip. The Lesotho people are just such a beautiful people, and it was just amazing to experience that again, and I loved every second of it.
Okay, and you just got back in recording. You just got back actually less than a week ago. I mean, just
last
a few
Saturday.
days ago. Okay. So this is your second trip. The first time you went to Lesotho, I got to go with you. So that was super fun. That was my first trip as well. But this time you were the only teenager. So last time you had Aiden. You guys were kids then. Now you guys are teenagers, but you were the only young person on the trip. Not that they're all old, but I'll hear about that one later. But you were the only teenager. So how was that compared to having a kid with you last time?
I mean, it was kind of more of a confidence boost to have, another kid like
Sure.
Aiden on the trip, because we were both in the same boat. It was both of our first times there. This time I felt a bit more prepared because, I had already been there, so
Yes.
I knew what to expect. So that was a bit easier than just being just a teenager first time on a trip like that. It was cool to see, though, those leaders' personalities.
Yes.
Even I'd known them, but now I truly know them. And it was just a really good experience.
Yeah. So you went with several leaders, you went with Pastor Jeremy and Pastor Nathan, Miss Kelsey, her husband Philip, and then your dad. So lots of church leadership. What was that like?
It was just really cool to see them excited about missions, because it was Pastor Jeremy's first time and Pastor Nathan's first time. So just seeing them get to experience that stuff, it was just really fun to see that. And just to see them get excited made made me more excited than I already was, if that was possible.
Yes.
So it was just overall, it was just so much fun to
I love
get
that.
to know them more.
Yeah. So on the behind the scenes a little bit, do you feel like you will never see our pastors in the same light? Because when you travel with people, you build relationships and you learn people, more about people. Was there some fun in all of that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good.
We had a lot of fun. It was fun to see them not, just be so serious, but also to see a really fun side of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know as I heard who was going on that trip, I was very jealous because that was a stacked team. So that's awesome. So can you tell us about one moment from the trip that really stands out to you, or something that you just keep thinking about?
Okay, so there was this chief at this one village that had a very strong Catholic presence.
Okay.
And so this chief was a devout Catholic for many, many years, but he had gotten very sick with a cancer. And there's also a very strong prosperity gospel presence there. And so the chief and his wife, they tried everything to stop this cancer. They tried the charms from the witch doctors and the holy water and from the false prophets there. And we were praying with him, and we said that we cannot promise healing on this earth, but we can promise eternal healing in heaven when you believe in Jesus. And so we did end up accepting Christ.
Wow.
And it was such a beautiful and powerful moment, and it was just so sweet.
I love that. I have not heard very much about the trip at all. So I'm also just I want to hear all of the things because Lesotho is so dear to me, but I love that. And being able to just see a chief in a village come to Christ, that could be life-changing for so many people in that village. That's incredible. That's awesome. So beyond that, where did you see God working, either in the people you served or in your own heart while you were there this time?
I saw God working in many ways, just like the children, how they're just so willing to listen. Everybody there is just so willing to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
Even if they might have different beliefs, they're just so attentive, and they ask such good questions. And you can just see the gears working in their minds about like processing what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's just really cool. And just seeing God work in my own life and the same way through that, it gives me confidence to share here as well with my friends. And also gives me an opportunity to share in the ways that I learned to share in Lesotho, but also use those ways to share here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. I've gone to Lesotho twice now and been on other trips. How much easier it is to put your yes on the table, to go be vulnerable, to share with people you've never met before, but how much more difficult it is to go across the street or to share with friends that are your peers. But I do think you gain some confidence. For one thing, just the more you do it, like, we know that the more we practice something, whether it's in front of people or just, we do things in kids ministry, you do things in student ministry where you're just given opportunity to truly just practice, like, role play, having faith conversations. And so I love that it helps with your confidence and coming back and having those conversations too. That's awesome. So was there a moment where God stretched you, challenged you, or helped you grow in your faith, either leading up to or on this trip?
I felt like a way that kind of stretched a little bit was on the very first day we popped a tire on our trucks. So it was kind of just like, God, what do you want us to do now that we cannot go to this certain place now because we have to wait for the tire? Mm-hmm. And I think we ended up meeting two of the pastors, Lesotho pastors, that we had not met before, but we had heard about. And so at the tire shop that we were trying to get our tire fixed. Okay. And so we ended up meeting them the Monday after church, or the day after. Mm-hmm. And we got to talk with them and just see their hearts for Lesotho.
Yeah, that's really special. I love that. So I hadn't sent this to you, but can you tell us just a little bit about like the structure of your all's trip? Like what does it look like just in general? Maybe like, I know what it looks like to go to Lesotho and how that works, but for maybe listeners who are not as familiar with our partnership and what we do in Lesotho, would you mind to share just a little bit on that?
Yeah, so it's a bit different every single day.
True.
But the main thing that we did on this trip was in the mornings we would disciple the ladies that work at the place that we stayed, the lodge. Mm-hmm. They are believers, and so we would disciple them, and Pastor Jeremy would usually share a little something, and then we would drive to each village for the day. Mm-hmm. Our team, we stopped at the blanket shop that was near the place where we stayed, and we got to disciple a believer there, and there was another believer there that accepted Christ.
I love that.
And we just got to talking with those two ladies. It was just so sweet. They were just the sweetest ladies.
Oh, good.
And then we would go to the villages and we would share and disciple the believers that were there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when we, go into a village, we have to get the chief's permission or the chief's wife. And so, there is a little bit of level of, we have to get permission to teach and what that looks like, or scheduling. And so you end up, trying to schedule a bunch of stuff and hoping people show up. And so it really is like, you just never know walking in every day, what ministry is going to look like that day.
Yes.
And that's hard. That can be, discouraging. And sometimes you end a day going, I don't feel like we did that much ministry today, or, you feel like you could do more. You travel all the way over there and you want to just fill every moment of your time. Sometimes those down times can be discouraging, but it sounds like even in those moments waiting for a tire, you guys really had opportunities to either disciple or hear how God was at work during that time. That's really exciting. Awesome. So you went on this trip. Oh, I already asked you that question. Sorry. Now that you're back home, what feels different about your faith or the way you see the world?
Just like I said before, the willingness that the Lesotho have to listen to what you have to say. Yeah. It just gives me more courage to share here. And I just wish that American people would just have the eagerness to at least try to listen. Mm-hmm. And so just sharing that with friends, hopefully that they'll listen as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting when you go to Lesotho how much Bible knowledge, like Bible stories and stuff that they really have. Like they have those like foundational stories that, we may be intentional to teach to preschool ministry or to kids ministry, but they don't have that relationship with Christ. And so, but they're such an eager people. They want to learn. And the last trip I was able to go on, we did a ton of kids ministry, and I was just always amazed at their attentiveness. I don't know if that's how they are with their own teachers, but the level of respect and excitement to jump right into our activities, to hear, to respond. It's not just like, yes, we're going to sit and listen and be, obedient, but they really wanted to learn, and, to interact and do our activities and answer questions. Like, that's huge. Sometimes we struggle with that with our own, people around us. So that's exciting. How do you think this trip will change the way you live or follow Jesus now, at home, at church, or with friends?
I would definitely tell people, like, it's not many people actually know that there is a small country called Lesotho.
Sure.
And, other friends who are just like, hey, I know that you went on this trip. How did it go? Just really like sharing them the beauty of the Lesotho people, and just letting them know that there is just God is doing such work in these people.
Yeah, I love that. So I know your dad has been to Lesotho several times. What was it that drew you to Lesotho, or just to missions in general?
Honestly, it probably was my dad, because he's been there 8 or 9 times.
Yeah.
And every time he would come back with stories, just amazing stories about how God was moving. And I felt like I already knew the people, even though I hadn't been there. And whenever I was 12, Dad was like, hey, since Aiden's going, you have an opening to go on this trip. And I was like, yes, please. And it was just amazing just to see it for myself and, make my own memories there and get to tell people my own story from going there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I do think, like, looking back to that first trip that we all went on back in 2023, how much more prepared you were for that trip, even compared to Aiden, because I had not been. You had so much more insight going into it because your dad is so familiar with the villages, the people, the culture, even the language. It is not an easy language to pick up. There's no Duolingo that you can just work on to prepare yourself for that. And so I love that your dad has been able to just impact that so much. I had not asked you this, but what do you see your heart for missions? Are you hoping to go other places, even long term, or just continuing to do work in Lesotho? Do you have any thoughts or ideas on that right now?
I would love to go to Lesotho again, and I would love to go to other places if, the Lord has called me there. But right now, Lesotho are they're just such a beautiful people.
Yeah.
And I could see myself going back to there many, many times.
Yeah. Just a couple of days ago, Pastor Nathan and I, who was on the trip, we were talking. I said, it makes me, when I come back from Lesotho, it makes me really want to go see lots of our other partners here at Ridgecrest, because once you are there and you experience and you work alongside them, you have such a different heart for those people and for our mission partners.
Yes.
I think it's so much easier for me to pray for the people in Lesotho because I have seen them. And so it makes me excited to eventually be able to go see partners all over the world that we're supporting here at Ridgecrest, but there's always going to be that special place that I really just want to keep going back to Lesotho. And I know that's how Aiden is. And I mean, I don't know that I've ever met anyone that's gone on a trip to Lesotho that's like, no, I think it's a one and done for me. So as we kind of wrap things up, if you could say one thing to another kid or a student who might be nervous about going on a mission trip, what would you tell them?
I would say definitely just pray about it, honestly, just because you can't do anything in your own strength apart from God. And you need to know what God, what his will is for you. And that can only really be found through prayer and reading the scripture. And just, if you're nervous about going on a mission trip, to pray about it. And if God doesn't lead you to a certain mission field, know that America is our mission field.
Absolutely.
And that we are first called to teach our people as well.
Yeah. And I think, I asked you earlier if you have, idea for going other places, and you said, wherever God calls me. And I love that, because I do think there's so much more about just, showing up to an info meeting and being like, oh, well, that trip sounds exciting. That sounds fun. But really pursuing and just that discernment of what is God calling me to do? We can put our yes on the table and then, wait for that really clear direction from the Lord of where he would have us serve. But I think you're right. And sometimes I think until we put our yes on the table right here to be, having evangelistic conversations and have that boldness here, sometimes and especially maybe for younger people even, or yes, maybe isn't ready to, go overseas. So anything else about Lesotho, about the people, or about this trip that you'd like to share?
Just overall, it's just an amazing trip. Just seeing like the kids as well. We did balloon animal stories, and it was just so much fun. We danced and we just played games with like a ball, and it was just so much fun, and it was just a great trip. And we went to so many amazing places that I had never been before.
Okay.
We went to some new villages. There was this one village called Freestada that we had not been able to go to for 2 to 3 years because the chief's daughter, she did not want us there.
Okay.
And so the chief had passed away and his daughter now no longer lives there. So we are now able to go back to Freestada.
Okay.
And we went there a couple times, and it was just, they were also very eager to listen because a couple shepherd boys, they were like, why don't you come to Freestada? And we were like, well, because of the chief's daughter. And that they were the ones that told us that, hey, the chief's daughter is no longer there. So now we get to go.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. I hadn't heard that either. Were you all able to see the Burlesons while you were there? That's our mission partners that we support that live on the Kotze side,
Yes.
Stan and Angie. Good.
We got to eat dinner with them and really talk about the ministry that they're doing there.
Yeah.
They built like a classroom to have conferences with new believers, upcoming pastors, pastor training. And it was just a really cool facility that they have there.
Very cool. I would love to see that. I haven't been over on that side and been able to see them in Lesotho. So that is really exciting. They do a lot of prison ministry work. And so I love that you guys were able to connect with some of our partners that we support here at Ridgecrest. Well, Claire, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm so proud of you. And I know this will be a real blessing to people that are listening today. I hope it encourages young people and more seasoned adults to be on mission, both here in the United States and to say yes to a forward mission trip. Thank you so much. Thank you again for joining us today. We'll see you next time on Hey Listen.